Hello, trail travelers. It is Carrie and Katerina from Trail Traveler, and we're going to go over our top 10 scenic trails of 2021. And we had an amazing year, didn't we?
Absolutely amazing.
We go out pretty much every weekend. We've only missed a couple of weekends this past year.
And we've had long trips.
We've had some long trips, and actually coming up with a top 10 list was pretty hard. And since we do have 10 trails we want to go through, let's jump right in and get to it. The number 10 on our list is Rollins Pass. Now, we took our overland base camp trailer there, we camped overnight in the King area, and then we went with our friends to finish off Rollins Pass. We had tried to do full-time winter stuff, so at the view, this is Yankee Doodle. We actually went up Jenny Creek to the left, and then from there went the rest of the trail to the top. And the view absolutely worth it.
And finally go enjoy
Getting up to the summit.
Yes.
When we got to the summit, and now in a moment here, you'll see some shots from the summit and what that's like. But getting up there is really easy. I mean, we could have taken our Subaru up there. You can take pretty much anything with some decent high clearance and drive up there. But during the summer, I would say summer and early fall, it is absolutely gorgeous. And then you get to the top and it's blocked off, so you can't go any further. Katerina did hike up all the way to the summit. In the past, you used to be able to drive through this tunnel and continue on and go all the way to Winter Park. But now you can't do that. They're looking at trying to open that back up again, but we'll see. But you hiked all the way to the top.
Yes, I did.
Was that an enjoyable hike?
It was very enjoyable. It is not crazy and difficult. It's just going up a little bit. It worth it. The view is even more significant.
Next on our list is Imogene Pass, and this was part of a multi-day trip that we did down in the San Juans. What an amazing trip overall, wasn't it?
It was great, and actually to put all these trails to rate them, which one is better, it's very difficult.
Right, now this is our scenic top 10. We also have a technical top 10. And there's some trails that made it on both. Imogene Pass is not a difficult trail, but it is stunning in its beauty. Now, unfortunately, as you can see in some of these shots, it's very hazy in the background. And that's because while we were there was a lot of smoke from the California fires. And still, these views were just mind-blowing. And even with the smoke, we could see for miles and miles and miles. And it was great that we were out there with our regular group of friends. We had Adam and his wife, and Philip and Dana, and Nam, and Josh and Christina. And it was just awesome being out there with our entire group that always wheel together, and being able to take this trip together. I mean, that just made it extra special.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. One trail there was even better than another.
Oh, everything we did was just like, wow, what is the next thing going to be like? But Imogene Pass was just really beautiful, and it's vast, where other things are nice and tight and compact, and you're in different areas. Imogene Pass, as you can see from some of these shots, just has these beautiful wide open spaces, and that just made it, again, this is easily why it made our top 10 of our scenic list. It's just, the beauty out there is fantastic. And in our top 10 list, you're going to see a wide variety of different types of terrains and environments, but this one really, it's painful to see this so low on the list. But when you see the rest of them, you'll understand why. Now, one of the things that make the trails down there in the San Juans so interesting is the history of it. There's old mines, there's old buildings, there's so much history out there that just really speaks to us. And like, here's an old dam that had busted through and was never fixed. And this whole area here near the end of the trail has a bunch of old things to go take a look at. And being able to see this kind of just, it's kind of hard to describe. If you're not into that, then you're not into it. But we are, and just seeing these structures and things from the past, I think gives you an appreciation of what people had to go through to survive and thrive and live in these harsh conditions out there. Number 8 on our list is Rimrocker Trail. Now, this is 160 miles of dirt road, basically, and trails that goes between Montrose, Colorado, and Moab, Utah. And it's something that I had wanted to do for a long time. And do you remember when I first told you about this and what you thought about doing this trail?
I thought as long as I know you, I heard about, yes, you want to do Rimrocker. So I was happy that we were able to do it.
And again, there's a lot of history along this trail. There's a lot of old mines. There's a lot to see. And some of the mountain areas are beautiful. And there's such a wide variety. I think that's one of the things that I think really stood out to me, is the variety of different terrains that we're in.
The scenery was changing during the day a few times, from rocks to, I don't know, some...
It kind of had everything from forest to desert to mountains to just literally canyons. It literally had just about every type of terrain that you would imagine, all in one trail. And we did this over a 2-day trip. And well, Rimrocker we did over 2 days. This was a part of a 5-day trip, but Rimrocker we did over 2 days. We had our trailer with us, and we were just able to find amazing campsites. And like I said, the views are just staggering all along this trail. So if you want something that's real easy to do, that's not going to be like super challenging or that you need a super built rig for, you can do this trail in pretty much any stock 4x4. And I think it's well worth it. You are going to want to take 2 days to do it, simply because it's long and you're not doing a lot of speed. So if you're taking a tent or a trailer or something, that's going to be ideal. A good stopping place is Buckeye Reservoir. You can get a campground there and just park for the night and then spend the next day going into Utah. But you can see these views are just out of this world. And we were, even though you can see off in the distance, we still had some smoke from the fires. We still had some pretty clear days, and we were really able to enjoy it. Number 7, Red Cone Pass. This is almost a rite of passage for anybody who's wheeling in Colorado. The views are amazing. The trail has a decent level of difficulty. But what set this trip apart from a lot of the others is that Katerina drove this entire trail. And I was super impressed, because not only did we just do Red Cone, we also did another section of hill that is very difficult, and she killed it. So for you've driven a lot over the past year, but this was really stepped things up in terms of like difficulty and things, and being on some of these steep roads and shelf road type stuff. What did you think of driving on Red Cone?
I thought that was difficulty, especially after those San Juan's trails, Black Bear Pass. It wasn't that bad, but it was satisfaction that, okay, you did it, and the whole trail, and it was so beautiful, and yeah, it was very good to your own.
It gave you a good sense of satisfaction to drive it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which it should. I mean, first you have to go down Radical Hill, which you're seeing right here, and there's some steep areas and some sharp turns, and there's a couple spots where it gets a little freaky, and you did fantastic. Now, again, like she said, we had just come off of doing trails like Black Bear Pass, So this wasn't the same level of difficulty. And then coming down here on Red Cone at the final end, I remember the first time I did it, I had a huge level of satisfaction. And then we went up this other section towards St. John's, and this was easily the most difficult stuff that you had ever driven on. What did you think about driving through some of this crazy stuff?
It was pretty crazy to be on a driver's side and to see the cliff is on your side going down and your tires like halfway over the road already because there was some washouts on that road.
Yeah, so which definitely put this, a little more technical at the end of this, but this really made the list for the absolutely amazing views that you see on Red Cone.
Yes.
Coming up in number 6 is Imogene. Is it Imogene or Imogene? I think it's Imogene. Imogene Pass.
Somebody said Imogene.
Imogene. I've heard it pronounced so many different ways, but again, this was one of our favorites from the San Juans, and we're going to use a lot of the same words. This was gorgeous. It was amazing. It was awe-inspiring, and it was a little tricky. It's very narrow, but you were doing some of the driving on here.
Yes, I did. I remember. on a cliff road. Yeah.
Yep.
On a shelf road.
The shelf roads aren't for everybody, but the views from here are amazing. And again, there's a lot of this historical stuff there. Some of the old mines and old buildings, and just seeing where these people had built stuff was absolutely crazy. And of course, you've got to visit the mailbox.
And it is high elevation, and how far you can see from the top, it's breathtaking.
Again, looking at it though, you see the smoke from the fires, so that was kind of a bummer, but it was enough that it made number 6 on our top scenic trails. Okay, so that was the first half of our top scenic trails for 2021. And now we're getting into the top 5. This was hard.
But still, even to give just a scores, on my list, it was all 9 and 10. It was very hard to divide what is going on the bottom, what is on the top.
Right. I mean, we did something like 40 plus trails this year. And trying to come up with a top 10, just even getting the top 10 was hard. But then trying to sort and come up with the order for the top 5, that was extremely difficult. And I think some people may be a little surprised, and even some of the people who went with us may not entirely agree on our top 5, but this is our top 5. It may not be anybody else's, but it's certainly ours, and for our particular reasons. And we're going to start off here on number 5 with Schnebly Hill, and this is outside of Sedona, Arizona. And while this is not a typical Colorado mountain trail, we felt it was gorgeous in its own right.
Yeah, it has its own beauty with all those red rocks, and one part of the trail with those views was amazing. Yeah,
and this scene here is pretty much the only obstacle on the entire trail. This is a very easy, it's basically like a 2 rated trail, and with this optional, it might take it up to a 3, maybe,
But it is about scenery right now.
This is a trail that is 100% about scenery. So, in fact, in Sedona, you can get on a handful of different Jeep tours that will take you through here. And those, they're piling 8-10 people in the back of these open air Jeeps that are basically completely stock. There's nothing beefed up about them. So, and we actually met a few people who were in bone stock Jeeps through here.
But they still were enjoying it.
They were enjoying it.
It was beautiful around.
These views are just staggering. And again, I know some of the people that we were with may not have enjoyed it as much as we did because it was insanely hot. And I mean, it was well over 100 degrees. It was like 110 degrees out there during the summer, but it is what it is. And we absolutely enjoyed these views that just stunning. It's the best we can say. And the next trail is one that I've done a number of times, and I'm definitely a huge fan of it. But this was the first time Katerina got to go on it. And that we did on our trip to one of our trips to Moab, and it is top of the world. And a lot of people would think this might end up being on our technical list, which I think it actually is. It is on our technical list as well. But from a scenery point of view, it's very beautiful. Now, most of the trail isn't. You have more of this desert look as you're going up.
Still, in a very far perspective, you see other rocks and formations.
But when you get to the top,
then you got your award.
The view from the top of the trail is mind-blowing. You're looking straight down almost 3,000 feet to the bottom.
And you don't need to look straight down. You can look ahead and see the whole world around you.
It is crazy. And you can drive out a little bit onto this rock ledge and get that super Instagram photo that you need. Here you can see where we're parked. I think right there we're switching positions. Josh is backing out so we can get up onto the ledge, and just the most amazing view that you may ever see. So if you're considering going to top of the world, it is absolutely well worth it. Now, there's a section of it which is why it puts it on our technical list also, but you don't need to do that hard section. You can go straight up and come right back the way you went, and it's got a good amount of challenge to it, but it's the reward at the end that really makes it worthwhile. And I think this didn't make number one simply because it's really this section of the trail that this reward, as you said. The most of the trail, you're just in kind of like this deserty area, but you get to the end, and that's where this trail really shines.
Then you know why you were driving for 2 hours before.
But it is a fun trail. It's definitely well worth it. And like you said, it's really, truly hard to beat a view like this. But we think we did for other reasons on some of the other videos you're going to see. So the next trail is Elephant Hill. And
it is in Canyonlands National Park.
Yes, it is. And anything in Canyonlands National Park is gorgeous. In fact, there's 2 trails that make our top 3 that are in Canyonlands, but Elephant Hill definitely stands out. And this is, to get to Elephant Hill, it's, what is that, almost 90 minutes north of Moab, or south of Moab?
South.
90 minutes south of Moab. And they only allow a handful of vehicles on the trail any given day. So you have to get a permit, which you need to get online. There's this wild spot here where you have to pull forward and then back down a hill. That was a nice technical challenge. But it's not a super, super hard trail. It does have some great obstacles, but this area that you're in is just amazing. These hills and rock formations and the water slides and the steps and the vistas. I mean, it's hard to put into words just how amazing these trails are.
And it is not only on the trail, but around you see all highlights what are in every book about Canyonlands National Park. So
the only thing you don't really have is some of the big pillars that you'll see in White Rim, but you can see the Needles District, you can see quite a bit. And here's the confluence of 2 rivers that we hiked over to. I mean, that was absolutely beautiful. But it was definitely a little windy that day. But again, this is a type of terrain that you have to like. And not everybody is going to be into the deserty, red rocky type of stuff. A lot of people just prefer mountains. Others prefer beaches. Others prefer other things. We like a variety. And so for us, this definitely nailed it in terms of beauty. And then at the end, we went on this little hike over to another river. So there's a lot to do in this area. So it's not just Elephant Hill. I think you really need to plan the whole day around being there.
Some people stay there overnight. There is campgrounds. You have to have permit again, but you can go there multiple days trip. Legendary black.
Oh, so number 2 on our top scenic trails, and let's just get into it because it is Black Bear Pass. And what you don't see on other videos is the beginning of this trail. No one really shows you getting up to the switchbacks, and it's amazing.
Yes, it is on our technical list, but it made number 2 on a scenery list because it's very, very worth it. And we were so blessed with weather, with clear sky that day. It was...
Oh, I mean, look, it looks like you can see for hundreds of miles. I mean, it was very, very clear that day. And I think for me, this section of the trail came as a surprise. I'd never really seen this in other people's videos.
Yeah, I never expected. Everybody only talking about switchbacks.
From the steps on, right?
Yes.
And for us, this was super enjoyable from a scenery point of view. And now, don't get me wrong, once you get past this and you hit the steps and you start going down, the scenery will definitely blow your mind. But to me, this was almost a shock as to how beautiful the first whole half of the trail is. And we were certainly there at an awesome time. There was lots of greenery, things like this waterfall that was flowing well. So there's a lot to see besides just trying to make it through it. But what a gorgeous, gorgeous place overall, and not just the last bit of the trail. So once you come over the steps, the main waterfall is right there. You're parked right there. Katerina walked up and got behind the waterfall a little bit, and then you start going down. And
no, you're not talking about difficulty going down. Look at the view.
Yes, the view is amazing. Down there in the distance, you see the town of Telluride, and what you'll see up ahead is Angel Vale Falls, which is the tallest waterfall in Colorado. And that is a stunning, stunning view. So it's hard to say much more about Black Bear Pass. Here's a shot I love, looking straight down on the switchbacks. Kind of gives you a good idea of what you're in for.
But when you were flying, you didn't even realize.
No, and unfortunately, when I was flying, nobody else could see what I was doing. And I'm sitting there just like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And now you can barely see it over there on the left, the Angel Vale Falls. You get down there, and that view is staggering. And we hit our number 1. And this was a surprise. And it was a surprise in a lot of ways because we hadn't planned.
It wasn't planned at all. It was absolutely spontaneous decision.
We had like 5 days that we were taking. We did 2 days of going through Rimrocker Trail, and we got into Moab, and we're sitting there going, what should we do? And I'm like, you know what? I've heard of this White Rim Trail, and we looked it up in the books and things, and it's like, wow, this is like a 2-day. We need to like camp during the middle of it, so we're going to take the trailer, and we're just going to, take 2 out of our 5 days and do this trail and see what it's really all about. And wow. This trail blew our minds. And again, this is our list. This may not be everybody's cup of tea for a number of different reasons. Let's take a look at White Rim Trail. So you start off on these switchbacks.
That was already worse. Worse trail.
So some of our friends have seen this part of the video, and in the first few seconds of the video, they're like, I'm out. No way, not doing it, not going to happen. And remember, we're pulling our trailer through all this. So we had a little extra bit of challenge on
Yeah,
here.
don't talk about difficulty.
I'm not talking about
Another
difficulty.
list.
This is also in our other list. But this view is crazy. And this also is in Canyonlands National Park.
Yes, on another side, north side.
But look, we kind of just need to let this speak for itself.
That's what I wanted many, many times on that trail, just to not to talk and just give yourself to nature. Like, look, and you don't have words to describe how overwhelming it is.
No, it's very Grand Canyon-like in a lot of spots, and it may not go as deep as the Grand Canyon.
Some spots were really deep.
Some spots are, but here, like, you see these columns that stick up, and Katerina was referring to these as mushrooms, and she actually went out and jumped some gaps to go from spot to spot, having me freak out a little bit because she's jumping over gaps that are probably 1,500 feet down, and she's just jumping from one spot to another. Hey, you had my heart going a few times,
Do you feel like you're flying over there?
Well, yeah, you're flying 1,500 feet in the air.
Then you will fly for a little longer down, so
You'll gain a few seconds.
at least something to remember.
Yeah. It's not the fall that'll kill you. It's just the sudden stop at the end. But also, this has a variety of looks to it. You do have some of this desert with the little plateaus, and you kind of feel like you're down in a valley. And then other times, you're looking down into ravines and cavernous areas. It's absolutely crazy. And then here, this is the Green River that you're kind of following along for a good part of it, and especially at the end. And you end up camping, or we ended up camping right next to the river. So that was kind of nice. And but if you watch our top 10 technical trails, you'll understand some of the, I don't want to say problems, but challenges that we had to go through on this trail, because we were there right after monsoon season and there was a lot of damage to the trail. But that did not stop it from making our number one.
The views. Scenery.
So thank you for following along with us on our top 10 scenic trails of 2021. 2022 is looking to be an amazing year of trails. We have a lot of stuff planned, and we appreciate you joining us and following along and subscribing and commenting and letting us know what you think of the different things that we're doing. We hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the trails.